So welcome back to DecoyNoise, where today we're doing 3 more stories from r/Am I the A-hole and taking them to Decoy Court. But as always, we have to give out today's Decoy coin to today's winner, which is Sylvia Gallimore. Sylvia Gallimore is a person in the Decoy Koi pond that's always giving great feedback to every story, so I wanted to make sure we recognize her for her great feedback in all the posts. So if you want to be like Sylvia, make sure you subscribe down below and make sure you turn on those notifications to join that Decoy Koi pond, and earning that Decoy Koi coin that will pop up on the DecoyNoise.com website in the near future. But getting to today's featured post is: am I the antagonist for calling out 2 ladies for being creepy at a grocery store? OP writes, I was in line at a grocery store for picking up a turkey and fixins. The lines were long due to Thanksgiving, and not to mention everyone trying to hoard toilet paper. Line was about 4 transactions deep when this incident happened, with me being the 4th person in line. Anyways, in line in front of me were 2 30-something ladies and the 2 other random people in spot 2 and 1, and of course the cashier. The 2 ladies in front of me were whispering to each other quite loudly about the young male's cashier's good looks. Nothing crude, but loud enough for me and at least the 2nd person in line to hear. As the line moved forward, the cashier had to stand up on a stool to grab some cigarettes from the top of the cigarette case. As he was reaching for the cigs, the 2 ladies quickly pulled out their phones and snapped a picture of him. They pretty much high-fived each other while saying loudly, "Did you get that? I got that. Dang right I did. Send me yours and I'll send you mine." With a normal voice, I said, "Do you think it's okay to do that?" They whipped around with shock and both had the "who the F are you" look on their face. Then one said, "Excuse me?" I said, "I watched you both take pictures of that young man. Kinda creepy." They said, "So what?" and moved up to check out. Of course, the cashier heard all this commotion and had no idea what to do or say, so he just sheepishly starts scanning the ladies' groceries. I mentioned again what they did was wrong, and I am certain that if the roles were reversed and the cashier was a young girl and then 2 men snapped pics and y'all just happened to be in my vantage spot, you 2 would be calling 911 and screaming bloody murder. Am I right? Am I right? About now, other people in line and around the checkout line were already listening and seemed to be in agreement with me. Then the ladies flipped it on me. "What are you doing watching us? Who does that? OMG," and started acting like a victim. They paid and ran out while loudly calling me a creep. As soon as they were gone, all eyes moved to me and pretty much everyone forgot that they were the baddies and started looking at me like I just ripped a big one in line. How'd I become the antagonist? Am I the antagonist? So taking the case and rushing over to Decoy Court, because honestly, as a person that has worked in positions like that where it's a very weird double standard that as a younger male working at somewhere, sometimes older people, I don't want to say just like, older women, but just older people that are very aggressive, they just feel it's entirely okay to kind of put you in very awkward situations like that cashier where he just sheepishly scans the items and doesn't know how to stand up for themselves because that's what they do when they are just inappropriate like that. So good on OP for standing up to them, but I mean, it's not a situation where OP became the antagonist, it's just only one of them was being represented. Honestly, if it was me in that situation, I would have been loudly saying, delete those pictures, delete the pictures of him right now. Why do you have pictures of his rear end on your phones when he's just checking out some cigarettes for another customer? You guys are creepy, like, making it a bigger deal about it, because I mean, that's totally inappropriate. This situation where they say that, like, they tried to flip it on him, like, why are you watching us? Why are you watching us? Just solidifies that they know that they're being the bad person. So I'm gonna go ahead and say in Decoy Court, OP's not the antagonist, and maybe a sad fact is, I get both ladies are the antagonist, but the Decoy Court, how do I make them not the bad guy? Is maybe this is a situation where he pays them to do that to make him boost his self-esteem. I can't imagine that's a real thing, but the decoy defense is sometimes at a loss, so we'll go ahead and take a brief recess in Decoy Court. Let me know your thoughts down below for story number 1, what you would do in that particular situation where you're seeing creepy older woman taking pictures of a younger cashier just because they find him attractive and then want to flip it on OP. That's a bizarre situation, but we'll go ahead and go to that top comment right now, which is: not the antagonist. What you did was really amazing. What the woman did was creepy as heck. And the reply is, exactly, not the antagonist. Those girls are creeps. It's disgusting what they did and they got away with it because of their gender. And I don't want to say they necessarily got away with it, but it's a situation where, it probably should have been escalated to somebody else, like maybe a manager kicking them out or just like declining them service. Hard to say. But the next top comment is, not the antagonist. They were trying to save face and you were 100% in the right. And that's the thing, is like they just try to flip it on him, like, how dare you do that to us? And no one's really, people are staring at OP not because what they did was wrong. They're staring at OP because they don't know the whole situation. They're just like, hey, those ladies are yelling at OP. What happened over there? They're not judging him. They're just like, I don't know the full context of it. But let's go ahead and shoot over to the controversial section. I imagine nobody else is going to be saying this, but I mean, no one's going to be fighting them. But the top controversial comment is, and then everyone clapped. They're trying to infer that this is a fake story. I don't believe that. And then OP came back and said, rolls eyes, negative 23 points. I don't think that this could be a fake story because this type of stuff does happen. Is everybody aware that there's a book that got sold everywhere that was called Pictures of Hot Guys Reading Books on the Subway, I think it was. And it's like, that is ridiculous. That became, it wasn't like a New York Times bestseller, but it was a book that you saw everywhere, like at Barnes & Noble and at and like on Amazon, and it's a situation. I don't think you could ever have a book that was just like pictures of hot girls reading books on subways. Like, people would be like, what the heck? Even if this is just like paid models to take pictures reading books, it wouldn't be a situation where you could sell a book profiting on what is essentially a creepy picture of someone unaware that you're going to put them in a book. I mean, that's just insane. But you know, there's a double standard in the world, and the idea they're trying to say this is a fake story, I can believe it myself because I was once, I don't want to say a victim, but I was on the receiving end of just creepy people thinking, oh, just because you're at work, you can't defend yourself against me, so I'm going to do some weird things like, hey, Decoy, I'm going to touch your shoulder while you're trying to close this deal, and I'm like, whoa, I need an adult. I'm an adult, but I need one too. But let's go ahead and go to that second story of the day, which is, am I the antagonist for saying I miss it being just me and my dad? OP writes, my mom died when I, a 16-year-old female, was 6. My dad remarried when I was 11. He fell in love hard and fast with his wife, and they got married 6 months later. She had 3 kids, ages 6, 7, and 9 at the time. It was a lot for me. Everything is much more. Things are louder and busier and there are many more people, and I never excited like they were. Wait, I was never excited like they were. There we go. And I never wanted to say anything, but I kept my mouth shut and let things happen for my dad, who was so happy. On the inside, I was hurt though. I was hurt that my dad seemed to be eager to leave everything behind when they got remarried. We no longer did pizza after school on Friday. We no longer watched something together on Sundays before bed. Everything had to be including everyone, and when I would ask to do something just with my dad, he would say no and look confused. One time my dad asked why I was so eager to do stuff with him, but never cared about family time, and I said because I missed him. He said I never lost him. Then back in October last year, they put us all into family therapy. For one of my classes, we had to design something in computer class. I was given a family tree, did the family tree of my dad, mom, and me, and then my grandparents, etc. My teacher showed my dad at the parent-teacher conference because of how good it was, and he and his wife freaked out about the steps not being included, and so family therapy happened. First therapist was a dud. Second one didn't make anyone feel comfortable, and then we were supposed to start with the current therapist. The lockdowns hit, and we couldn't do them from home, so we started in July or August. Can't remember when exactly now. Then she was good, and I opened up, but I don't think they handled it well. 4 sessions in, they asked why I was distant. I admitted that I found it hard. I felt like everyone else was so happy and I didn't want to rock the boat, but it was too much for me, and I missed it when it was just me and my dad because that's when it was most comfortable for me. She asked what I missed about it. I said it was the time I got with my dad, the fact that it always felt like home, and it felt less like home since more people joined the family. And I felt bad about it, but it was a lot from going from 3 or 2 for so many years, and then when we went to 6 overnight, it was all so fast, and they were eager and started calling me their sister and daughter right away, but I didn't feel that way. And then my dad stopped doing our stuff together, and I felt like I lost him. My dad said he was hurt, I wasn't happier for him, and that I didn't give it more of a chance before rejecting them. My stepmom was hurt that after 5 years I haven't warmed up to her and her kids enough to feel like they were part of my home. The therapist said I felt was valid and asked why they felt like what I said was bad, and then we're going around in circles since. Am I the antagonist? I feel like I should have stayed quiet because they're just mad at me. So taking the case over to Decoy Court, it's a sad situation where OP's feelings are valid, the therapist wants to validate them, but everybody's trying to put the pressure on them because it's taking them longer to acclimate to the situation. Being in a loud, busy home would be a big culture shock, and the idea is it's compounded with the idea of loss of the mother and also loss of the father because they don't have the same relationship. The father probably should be doing a little bit more to make the daughter feel better in this transition period. It doesn't seem like she hates the step siblings or the stepmother, just she misses the old home. So OP's definitely not the antagonist. Kind of a sad situation that, you know, this is all happening to them at a young age, but it's something that hopefully the therapist can acknowledge. I guess the Decoy defense would be a situation where they're saying like they don't really make it outwardly aware, but they totally shut out everybody. Everybody's being super nice to OP, and OP's just always being like a jerk to all of them and saying, you're not part of the family. I can't believe this. You stole my dad, and being rude to everybody. I don't think that actually is genuinely what's happening, but maybe the decoy defense is just that. So let me know in this brief recess what you think about story number 2. Does OP need to get acclimated to the whole family right away, or are they entitled to kind of miss the way things used to be? Let me know in the comment section. But with the top comment of this story is, oh honey, you know you're not the antagonist, but big hugs here. So I mean, especially at a young impressionable age where everybody's trying to tell them in the family you're the bad guy in the situation, they may or may not know that they're not the antagonist. And OP came out and said, OP knows she's not the antagonist, but she's being punished for her the antagonist behavior, so she wonders if she's at fault. No, OP, you're not at fault. Your dad failed you big time over the last 5 years, and he may not be able to admit it. They brought you to family therapy to fix you and make their world better. Now they're finding out that they're at fault, and they need to acknowledge it to fix it and atone somehow. If you have a good therapist, sounds like you do, and if they have the guts to stick it out, she will be able to help them through that. If they don't have the guts, then they may drop the therapy sessions. OP, never doubt yourself. Don't punish yourself if you can help it. Ask if you can keep going to therapy on your own. But one way or another, hang in there. ETA, my goodness, thanks for the awards. And somebody that got even more awards says, exactly, I personally think it's important that Am I the Antagonist is a safe space for kids and young adults to come and ask things that might be obvious when you're older. It is very clear that a lot of minors here don't have very good home lives, and if we can give them a shed of validation, then it's good. I'm very proud of OP for being such good at voicing her feelings without projecting it all into dislike or hate towards her dad or steps. It's not okay for the father to disregard a child like this. Even if he's a good father to all his children, then he has to recognize that different children have different needs. Her step-siblings were already 3 or 4, so it doesn't seem much different, but OP had never had siblings before. Siblings can be hard work, exactly because of this. It takes a whole bunch of compromise that you learn gradually, if it isn't something you transition effortlessly into, which I would wonder if OP's dad had been in a situation where they always grew up in a very busy household with lots of siblings, and they were used to that. So once they got to a situation where they had a busy household where always something's going on and there's 5 kids running around and it's always very lively, he would feel more at home now. But OP, having only had mom, having only had one-on-one time with dad, this is a big culture shock, and it's going to put her in a very, very sad situation. So I understand where she's coming from. So it's kind of sad that's where it got to. But let's go ahead and go to that controversial section, which is no antagonist here. This is a tough spot for everyone. You're doing your best, so is your dad and stepmom. Dad was pretty clueless for the last few years, but he is likely mad that he didn't realize this sooner. Keep communication open, understand that your dad really doesn't want you to be happy. Negative 30 points. I don't know why they don't want to help the dad. The next top controversial comment is, no antagonist here. You're well within your right to feel that way. Losing a parent is hard. It's not something any child should have to go through, especially at 6 years old. Talk with your dad. See if you can set up some activities with just the 2 of you. You shouldn't be forced to always be with your stepfamily. Negative 66 points. So everybody doesn't like anybody that's giving the dad slack and saying, hey, this is a learning curve. And one thing you'll realize as you get older is parents sometimes mess up. Parents aren't perfect, and sometimes there's a learning curve. Like I said, if the dad grew up in a big, busy household, he might not even be aware that there's a culture shock, and the idea of being around lots of people is uncomfortable with somebody. Some people like to be alone, and some people need one-on-one time, and some people just hate the idea of just always noise going on, and it seems that OP's like that. So that's my thoughts on story number 2. Let me know if you agree or disagree, but let's go ahead and shoot to the third and final story, which is, am I the antagonist for refusing to raise my brother-in-law's kids? So OP writes, I, a 28-year-old female, have been married for 4 years. My husband, 29, has a brother who is 2 years older than him. Let's call him Ben. Ben has 2 kids, 6 years and 9 months, with a woman named Amy. When Ben is still with Amy, he was an antagonist towards her. He promised to marry her but never did, and said he cheated on her multiple times. So about 2 years ago, Ben was caught cheating again, and this was Amy's last straw, and they broke up. I should add Ben knew Amy was a few weeks pregnant at this point. Amy, who had been living with her mother, decided to move closer to a city to look for work. Soon enough, she found herself a boyfriend and moved in with him. This caused Ben to become enraged. He threw another online tantrum saying he didn't want his kids being raised by a stranger, and even threatened to stop supporting the kids financially if they continued living with the boyfriend. Amy resorted to sending the kids back to live with her mother. Unfortunately, a few weeks ago, Amy's mom had a stroke and is now incapable of caring for herself, much less the kids. So now I found out that Ben asked my husband if we can raise the 2 kids for him. He says he doesn't have the time to do it because he has to work as a teacher and come home to do Mark's schoolwork. He says since I work remotely, I'm the only one capable of taking care of the kids. I refuse, and I'll give my 2 reasons. 1, I already have 2 kids to take care of who are under the age of 3. 2, I don't want to have to spend my time any more with Ben than I already do. He's a misogynist, stupid brat. The fact that he thought it would be okay to speak to my husband only about us raising his kids proves my point. 3, we have very different views on parenting strategies and raising the kids. His kids would interfere with my autonomy in raising mine. For example, I bought my son a play stove and Ben made a lot of unnecessary comments about the toy being for girls in front of my son. Thankfully, my husband told him to back off, but this is just one example of why I think he's a bad influence for a child. 4, I think this whole situation is because Ben's incapability to grow up. I think he could care for the kids himself, but he wants to live the bachelor life and continue drinking with his friends instead of raising his kids. This is why my husband disagrees. I told him I might have been willing to raise the kids if Ben and Amy were dead or incapable of caring for the kids because of something they can't control, but I'm not willing to raise kids just because the parents can do other things. This made my husband say that I'm punishing the kids because of the parents' mistakes. He says he feels that both Ben and Amy are not good enough parents because Ben drinks too much and Amy introduced the kids to the boyfriend she only knew for a short time. He says if you see the kids suffering, you should be willing to step in, even if the parents are at fault. The kids are innocent. So taking the case and rushing it over to Decoy Court is everybody seems to have a valid point is OP doesn't want Ben in the life because Ben's going to start criticizing the way she's raising the kids. If the kids want to play with dolls and stoves, whatever, that's none of his business. And the idea is then if she's raising Ben's kids too, he's going to start saying that he has an influence on what toys they play with, which is ridiculous. Also, the idea is they're capable of it. They're their kids. Amy should be able to be responsible for the kids. Ben, he works from home already to be a teacher. He should be able to take care of the kids. It's not on OP to pick up the slack. So I understand that. But also I understand that, OP's husband is in a situation where it's like, hey, these are my nieces and nephews. I don't want them to suffer because their dad's a deadbeat and their mom is introducing them to a strange household. So I get that. I'll go ahead and say with the Decoy Court, there's no antagonist here because OP's in the right. The husband is in the right. Obviously, the Ben, the brother, he's the antagonist because he's not willing to raise his own kids. He needs to grow up and just, take responsibility. Don't criticize other people the way they parent if you're not willing to be a parent yourself. But I guess the Decoy defense in this situation would be a place where they're the nephews and nieces. There's just as much OP's husband's nephews and nieces as it is OP's nephews and nieces by law. So if this is gonna save them from a life of sadness and confusion, maybe they need to stick it out. But I mean, that's a Decoy defense. I don't really agree with that myself. But let me know what you think for story number 3. We'll take a brief recess. Tell me if you would be willing to take in your nephews and nieces because they're being raised in a bad situation, or would you stand your ground and saying, I can't bring in more kids into my household just because their brother-in-law doesn't want to step up to the plate and be responsible. So let me know what you're thinking down below, but we'll go ahead and go to that top comment right now, which says, not the antagonist. I'm sorry. Why can't their mother take them again? Because he threatened to stop financially supporting them, so he sent them away? What? She'd rather live with her boyfriend and her kids? And that's a situation is, yes, have the mom take the kids. Don't let Ben dictate what they do just because he's just being entitled. The reply to that from OP is she can't find her job in her hometown, and she says she can't afford rent on her home where she works, and that's what child support is for. Is the next reply, and that's true. The next top comment is not the antagonist. That's a huge life shift for your entire household, including your children. Amy should be looking into getting legal custody arrangements so she can get child support and have her kids back. Both parents are the antagonists here, but have chosen their preferred lifestyle over the living human beings they created. Very true. They have a responsibility to their kids, and they should step up, whether it's finding a new job or saying, hey, Ben's not going to be able to go out and drinking with his friends or have to have a situation where they need to figure out a new living arrangement or just pay the child support. That goes on them. It's sad that the kids are going to be in a crappy situation, but it's really on the parents, not OP. Going to those controversial comments, it says, why hasn't CPS been contacted? A teacher refusing to care for his own children and a mother whose chose her boyfriend over her own children are both the complete antagonists. That's controversial, but it's true. The next top comment is, not the antagonist, but just out of curiosity, would Ben be willing to pay you guys child support to raise the kids? Would Amy be willing to as well? This is wild, and CPS should be involved. you can't just abandon your children and it'd be okay. And I see why they got negative points, because it's a situation where child support payments aren't going to help you raise somebody else. Like, that's an entire extra 2 living beings you have to take care of, and, like, you know, all the energy and effort, especially if they're not your kids. So yeah, I can see why they're not agreeing with that. But I mean, those are my thoughts on stories 1, 2, and 3. Give me your feedback and comments down below as to what you think the Decoy Court decision should be. If you haven't already, please subscribe down below and turn those notifications on for the best drama-filled Am I the Antagonist stories taking to Decoy Court. If you don't want to do any of that, just make sure you like the video, maybe share the channel overall with somebody you know. But if not, just go ahead and put this on autoplay and watch the next episode of DecoyNoise coming up next.